I love A-Rod. A-Rod passed Griffey, but Trout passed A-Rod.
Doesn't count if you go out in a blur of steroids. Griffey over A-Rod all day long.
You act like A-Rod hit wall scrapers. He hit 500 feet shots. So the ball would have traveled 450 instead of 525. Sorry.
That's not true.
Sorry.
That's not true either. They were sorry. No, dude, that's not. Dude, that's the furthest thing from the truth, right? Because, like, he was doing steroids virtually his entire career. You don't know how many hits or home runs or RBIs or anything he would have had. He was doing it his entire career. Look at where he played.
Look at where he played, okay? Outside of Seattle, Yankee Stadium in Texas are bandboxes. Hitters love those places. You're not telling me that his numbers are diminished that much. He's a first-ballot Hall of Famer regardless of steroids or not. Just like Barry Bonds.
Right. Dude, you're like, oh, his numbers are diminished. He played in bandboxes. Like, it isn't like you couldn't whip it out and piss over the fence in right field.
That's what I'm saying to you. That's exactly my point. Yankee Stadium is you throw it hard enough, it's going to leave on the bounce back alone. Jeff. What are you talking about? A-Rod played in two hitters' parks. Like, that's a huge detriment, not steroids.
Well, A-Rod, I think
how he played at Camden Yards.
Part of it.
Yeah, but I think
steroids is a big piece.
I agree with you in certain ways, Jeff. But A-Rod would have still hit if he hit 50 home runs one season. He probably would have hit 45, 44.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, come on.
No. You're giving too much credit, right? Because it's also about having energy and seeing the baseball better and recovery.
He was one of the hardest workers baseball's ever seen.
Yeah, because he didn't want to get bitch tits from not working out on the steroids.
Oh, stop, Jeff. Now Jeff, you're taking shots at Alex Rodriguez. You're not giving him any credit. Alex Rodriguez is one of the greatest baseball players.
You know why Barry Bonds is a different story, though? He's an idiot because he was a Hall of Famer before he ever touched the shit. And now he's not probably going to get in because people view him like, oh, wow, you juiced up.
How many players? 400 guy in Major League history.
Yeah, right. And he did that before steroids.
Right, but it makes a difference, though, right? Because instead of having the
and he was a great defensive player.
He was, but all I'm saying is it makes a difference where, the numbers accumulate to the fact where, he's a surefire get-in guy, where if he didn't do it, he was probably like Edgar Martinez, where, he'd still get in the Hall of Fame, but it wouldn't be like a no-brainer.
But Edgar Martinez should have been a first.
And by the way, Barry Bonds is the best baseball player I've ever seen play. He is the best.
Nah, Griffey's
better. He was Barry Bonds. No, dude. Bonds could you had pitchers couldn't even pitch anywhere around the batter's box. The guy would smack the ball.
Tyler's too young to remember the Bobby Bonilla, Andy Van Slyke, and Barry Bonds era of the Pittsburgh.
Barry Bonds was the best player I've ever seen.
It was awesome.
Mm-hmm. Barry Bonds was the best player I've ever seen.
Carl says if A-Rod was that good, then he didn't have to cheat, but he still did.
Yeah, he cheated because he wanted to stay on the field.
Mark McGwire cheated, and Mark McGwire still would have been a relatively good baseball player.
I really don't believe that. I don't think Mark McGwire is really that good. I really don't. I think he was, to me,
he would have been
his
an all-star
game was diminished.
without steroids.
Yeah, he was a power
but again,
hitter.
It goes back to the same thing with the MVP. The all-around
I
game,
agree.
So.
McGwire, Canseco, and Sosa should not be in the Hall of Fame. Ever. Because they popularized it to the guys like Bonds, the guys like A-Rod, where, all right. Hitting 330 don't mean jack shit, so I got to hit 500 feet home runs. All right, so I'll juice up too.
The only problem I have with you saying that, Tyler, and because I agree with you to a certain extent, the only problem I really have with you saying that is pretty hard to not do steroids when the league greenlit you to do them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like they knew, and they were like, well, our sport's failing. This is awesome. Keep going. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's kind of the only. That's the only thing I would say about that. Like, I kind of agree with you, but listen,
I agree. And unfortunately, there's just scapegoats that got to take the fall for it. McGwire, Canseco, and Sosa are those scapegoats. I give Bonds a pass because he was a Hall of Famer before he ever touched them. If you want to add Rafael Palmeiro to the list of jackasses that took him, that's fine too.
He was a good player too.
No, he was, but Juan Gonzalez was the best player on that team, and he never touched shit.
But again, here's the best example, though. That might be a good example, right? Where, like, okay, Rafael Palmeiro, really good player. I'm not saying that he's not, so don't take it like that. But he was a borderline Hall of Famer. If you took away his steroids, is he a Hall of Famer?
No.
Probably not.
I don't think he's a Hall of Famer without him.
No, he is. His numbers are definitely Hall of Fame worthy.
He got in. He got in already, I think.
No, he didn't.
No one from that era has gotten in.
He was going to get
Roger
in.
Clemens came to get in. Roger Clemens is the best pitcher I've ever seen.
They're not going to get in until the baseball writers
If you think
change
Roger
or
Clemens
evolve
is the
or
best
something.
pitcher you ever seen, if you don't think Barry Bonds is the greatest player you've ever seen, I don't know what you were watching. I mean, Barry Bonds was the greatest baseball. The guy could steal bases. He could play defense. He was powerful.
I didn't see that Barry Bonds.
Man, the guy never struck out. I mean, he walked.
Gee, you just described Mike Trout.
No, he's better than Mike Trout. He's
the
better
best
than
pitcher
Mike
I've
Trout.
ever seen is Michael Pineda.
Michael Pineda.
I mean,
Only if he has his
guy-
hat. Only if he's got his hat on. Only if he's got his hat on.
The way that guy would lube himself up to get out to the mound covered in pine tar is impressive.
You leave Carl Pavano out of this.
Carl says, Griffey, Bonds, Gwynn, Manny Ramirez were amazing hitters I watched.
Yeah,
Tony
Tony Gwynn's
Gwynn's
probably the
another
best
one.
pure
That's a good
hitter.
call,
Yeah,
man.
Tony Gwynn's probably the best pure hitter.
Great pure hitter, but he wasn't a power hitter. I mean, Barry
See,
Bonds.
people like you are why baseball sucks
Barry
now.
Bonds was all around great hitter, and he was
Right,
he
but
was great all
Tony
around
Gwynn
in
could
everything.
steal bases too.
Bonds was a Hall of Famer even before the
Yes, he
steroids,
was.
but
400,
that-
400.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yes, Barry Bonds is the greatest baseball player I've ever seen. In any year. I mean, yes, we saw Alex and Mike Trout's special. If Mike Trout keeps it up if he can stay healthy and keep it up, Mike Trout could go down as the greatest baseball player we've ever seen. But right now, the greatest baseball all-around player I have ever seen, Barry Bonds, by far. I don't care how good Griffey people say Griffey is. Barry Bonds was a better player than Griffey. Much better player than Griffey.
I don't think that's fair.
Much better
If
player.
Griffey doesn't get hurt, he's the greatest player we've ever seen. He would have shattered every record there was.
I don't know about
Can
that.
I give you one? Can I give you
Go
one
ahead.
that's underrated? I think that
Go ahead.
you're probably going to be like, no, you're
Derek Jeter.
ridiculous or whatever. No, not at all. He could hit for power, had speed and stole bases like Barry did when he was young.
Who?
Had a cannon of an arm. Ichiro. Why doesn't Ichiro get any love?
Oh,
for the best player
Ichiro-
you've seen, like
Ichiro was great. He was a great player, and I'm not going to take that away.
high average.
Yes.
High average with drive-in runs.
Like
but-
8 or 9 200 hits.
But not a
seasons.
power hitter. Not a power
do you know
hitter.
why
Yeah, but you want
Ichiro
to know
gets
what's funny? But you want to know what's funny? He did have power, and he did
did.
hit home runs. He just chose not to. He took what they gave him, which made him great. Like,
No
listen, with the
question.
shift and everything, if more players would hit like Ichiro, you wouldn't have shifts anymore.
No, you're right.
By the way, and Carl keeps saying Griffey. Go look at Griffey's numbers in his first 10 years, and go look at Barry Bonds in his first. It's not even close. It's
And
not
by
even
the way,
close.
I bet you it's closer than you think it is.
It's not. It's not even close. Go look.
And by the way, super underrated about Ichiro, he had 3,000 hits here. I think he had like 3,600
Right.
hits in Japan.
Yeah, he's major league. He's
Yeah,
baseball's
3,089
leading hitter.
in the majors, and he definitely had over 1,000 in Japan too, which makes him the combined hit leader.
5,000 over 5,000 hits
Yeah,
in his career.
right.
And yes, see, if he played all the way in his early 20s, Ichiro probably would have the hit record. He's the greatest all-around hitter we've ever seen. But to me, all-around
doesn't
games.
get enough love, I don't think. It
No,
doesn't get
you're
enough
right.
love. A lot of people throw out Griffey. A lot of people throw out Bonds, and those are all good choices. But if you're talking about a pure hitter, dude, Ichiro has to be the best hitter you've seen.
Ichiro's special. And I'm not going to take that away from him. You could argue that point. Frank Thomas isn't Barry Bonds or Ken Griffey.
Carl, you have to factor in the all-around player too, not just the hitter itself.
You're talking about one of the greatest center fielders we've ever seen. Both of them, Griffey and Bonds. I mean, Bonds, for the first 10 years of his career, he was a lights-out defender. I mean, we're talking about fantastic defensive player. Fantastic.
Yeah, but Griffey probably a little better in the outfield because he played center. Bonds never played center.
Maybe a little better. Maybe.
I mean, center fielders clearly have more range.
Bonds
than
stole
other
bases. Bonds did everything, man. Hit for power. It's just ridiculous. He was a special player.
All right, Barry Bonds' first 10 years when he was a full-time starter, from 1987 to 1996, had 318 home runs, 945 RBIs, 344 stolen bases. He had 293 with a 410 on-base percentage, 558 slugging, and a 968 OPS. And Griffey had a 300 average with 350 home runs, 1,018 RBIs, 143 stolen bases. He had a 379 on base percentage, 568 slugging, 947 OPS.
Oh, so they're very close.
Very close.
Yeah, they're very close, and then all of a sudden, Barry Bonds' head grew like he jumped on the mushroom in Super Mario Bros. And leveled up. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, ridiculous.
Griffey also won, except for his rookie year, he won a Gold Glove every year of that span as well.
His first
10 years.
He was a better defensive player than Bonds, but not by much.
Bonds did win 6 though in that stretch though.
So they're both very good defender players. But I don't care. Steroids just keeps you on the field. Barry Bonds, even when he did steroids, you couldn't strike the guy out.
It doesn't just keep you on the field, right? Because everyone at that level is talented, but when you have far more strength and you can move the bat quicker, it adds so much more power.
Okay.
Was Bonds a 73 home run hitter before he took steroids? Not even close. How do we know? Because he could never do it with the Pirates when he wasn't taking steroids. So it clearly boosts your numbers exorbitantly, does it not?
Right. But we haven't seen it since.
Is Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa 65 or 71 home run hitters? Are they without steroids? Come on, dude. Have common sense.
I am common sense. First of all, Barry Bonds, before he did steroids, 400 home runs. So he had, 350 more home runs? In how many years after that?
Hold on. But what was his highest total of home runs in a season? But
46.
Before he was taking steroids?
46.
So he almost doubled his home run output.
Okay.
That's an 80% jump in home runs in
a
single season?
Carl says, by the way, also to go on your point, Jeff, Brady Anderson hit 50 home runs, proves Jeff's points.
Well, because one player did it?
No. Look at the best. I'm comparing apples to apples. I'm comparing Bonds to Bonds, right? The most he could do is less than 50 home runs, and then he gets an 80% boost in production by taking steroids. I mean, come on, man.
Okay. So let's see what Barry Bonds did in how many after he hit 400 and 400 and he went to San Francisco. How many home runs did he hit in when he did steroids? Just go look. I bet you they're very close. And if they're close, I'm not saying Barry Bonds would have hit as many home runs if he didn't do steroids, but he would have been damn close.
So he would have hit 447 with the steroids in once 447 outside of those first 10 years.
But don't forget, Jeff Kent was also pretty bad too. Bad isn't good. Not bad.
So he had
bad
478
for all you old people. I mean, Jeff Kent was also a really good.
All right, you want to count the years
hitter.
Before the 73 home run season. He had 478 home runs, so that means he would have had 286 including that 73 home run season from 2001 to 2007.
Right, but all I'm saying is here's the other thing that you're also discrediting, because health is a factor and steroids help. He was getting older, right? Would he have been able to stay on the field without the boost from the steroids? Probably not.
Probably not. And you're right about that, Jeff. And that's why I said that I think he did the steroids, was to stay on the field and stay healthy so he could play. But
there's also no doubt about the boost in production.
Of course.
You can't get an 80% boost in production and go, it doesn't really matter.
I'm just saying, if Barry Bonds didn't do steroids, he still would have hit 600 home runs.
He would have hit a shit ton. There's no. I'm not taking that away. I just said that Barry Bonds was a Hall of Fame player with the Pirates, right? Even before he went to San Francisco. But you can't deny that your numbers and your production get boosted exorbitantly by doing the steroids. And that's my point with A-Rod. Is he probably would have had a fine career. No doubt he was a special player to come in right from high school and start for the Mariners, and that's. You got to be really goddamn special to do that. No, there's no doubt. But there's also no doubt he doesn't hit as high as an average or drive in as many runs or hit as many home runs.
It's an interesting argument, and we're not gonna keep going into this argument.
If you looked at any player, just name a guy that did steroids that got caught.
Gary Sheffield.
And you look at their numbers pre-steroids. They're not even close. The production just exorbitantly jumped.
Go look at. I bet you Gary Sheffield's numbers were just as good.
Sheffield.
It was just as good when he did it and when he wasn't on it. Gary Sheffield's numbers were great. Even Barry Bonds.
What was McGwire's best season?
When did Sheffield get caught?
When he hit the 71 home runs.
Yeah, Mark McGwire hit 50 home runs his rookie season.
Right, but so he hit 50% more on steroids.